Hello and good evening. Welcome. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live from news but Desawe Kanda, also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and on DSTV channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com. I am Alfred Akonse. Tonight, United Nations General Assembly passes landmark Ghana-led resolution declaring slavery a historic injustice and calling for reparations. What exactly does this mean? What next after this particular point? Is there going to be, if there's going to be some compensation or payment, in what form is going to come, and what does all of this mean? Stay with us. We have a conversation on this tonight. National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat, NIMOS, warns miners that officers will respond with equal force in self-defense if attacked. Stay with us. We have this ruthless response from the NIMOS team after a number of them have been at the receiving end of attacks by illegal miners. Ghana ramps up tomato production drive amid shortage fears after Burkina Faso export ban. We'll hear from the Minister of Agric and then also the Federation of Beverage Producers, who are also making the point quite clearly that if the Agric Ministry does not find a plan in the next 90 days, then the Agric Minister has no business being in office. Stay with us. We have a conversation on this. So we have this and more, including an update on the ECOWAS Court of Justice case over the removal of Gertrude Isaba Araba Tokono as Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana. There was an update on this development to it earlier today. As always, you're an integral part of the conversation. Let's hear from you. The hashtag we're using is Ghana Tonight on Facebook and on X. Let's get talking. Let's settle for Ghana Braves.
The United Nations General Assembly has approved a landmark resolution spearheaded by Ghana that formally declares slavery and the transatlantic slave trade as the greatest injustice against humanity. Foreign Minister Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa spoke with the media after the vote on Wednesday. The Director of Operations at the National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat, Colonel Dominic Bois, has issued a stern warning to illegal miners attacking officers on the front lines of the anti-Galamsey fight, stressing that the Secretariat will not hesitate to respond decisively to such threats. Colonel Bois made the remarks at a news conference in Accra on Wednesday, where he outlined NIMO's ongoing efforts to restore sanity in the illegal mining sector.
We had a few brushes where one of my soldiers was shot. Luckily, it was in his thigh and he's recovering. But as I reiterated the last time, NIMOS will not stand by and watch people use weapons against us. We are better trained in the weapons. And therefore, I'll send a warning out there once again that anybody who does, NIMOS will deal with them ruthlessly.
The Minister for Food and Agriculture, Eric Opoku, says government has allocated resources to the West Africa Center for Crop Improvement to develop and invest in an improved tomato variety aimed at boosting local production. The minister was responding to a statement on the floor of Parliament.
We have a gap of approximately 300,000 metric tons to close before we can attain sufficiency in tomato production in Ghana. But we have to understand, we have to have a better appreciation of the challenge, the root cause of it, before we can prefer the appropriate solution to deal with it. While our counterparts in Burkina Faso are doing 18 tons per hectare, we are doing 8 tons.
The Gbese District Court has dismissed the preliminary objection filed by lawyers of Frederick Kumi, also known as Abu Trika, against extradition proceedings. The lawyers had argued that per the UK and US Extradition Treaty of 1931, as well as the Extradition Act 1960, being enforced in Ghana, the charges leveled against Abu Trika are not extraditable offences. In her ruling, however, the presiding magistrates explained that offences of money laundering and conspiracy to commit wire fraud had been outlined in the UN Treaty, Article 5 and 6. Some workers of the Ghana Railway Company Limited returned to the Ministry of Transport earlier today, picketing over 14 months of unpaid salaries after assurances were given that their concerns would be addressed this week. The workers say there has been no communication or progress since then. The group says if by next week they do not hear any positive updates, they will take matters into their own hands.
By 31st of this month, we need our salary. By 31st or after 31st, unless, since we have lost a lot of our workers, we will be here unless the police and they will call the police to come and kill us, then everything will be off. Because we are ready. Since this thing started, we lost family members, workers, close to 50. Just last 2 weeks, we lost three workers. And they will be all that they will be saying that this, and it will occur to you that if they pay all the 14 months, some of the workers even will not get 10,000. Why? Because the salaries are peanuts.
The Bank of Ghana has launched the revised Cyber and Information Security Directive for 2026, tightening oversight of digital risks as the country's financial system becomes increasingly technology-driven. Speaking at the launch in Accra, Governor Johnson Pandit Esiama said the directive marks a shift from traditional banking supervision to protecting critical data infrastructure, warning that cyber threats now pose systemic risks to the economy.
A framework that is designed for the challenges of 2018, in no way can it adequately solve the problems of today, now that we are in 2026. The threat landscape has changed, and so must we. We have moved beyond simple compliance towards a posture of active and collective cyber resilience.
There's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, and on DSTV channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com. As always, probably brought to you by Flamingo Paint, Simply Superior, Sasso Insecticide Spray and Quell, Tum Tum Precom. Coming up next year on Ghana Tonight, there's something historic that's happened at the United Nations General Assembly, passing the landmark Ghana-led resolution declaring slavery a historic injustice and calling for reparations. But what exactly does this mean? What happens after this particular point, and especially when it comes to some sort of a compensation? And there are countries that declined in this particular vote. The United States was one of the notable amongst the over 50 countries that were against this particular resolution that was pushed and led by the President of the Republic of Ghana, John Dramani Mahama. Well, the United Nations has adopted this. The General Assembly has approved this landmark resolution spearheaded by Ghana that formally declares slavery and the transatlantic slave trade as one of the greatest injustices against humanity. Now, the resolution, which passed during a vote concluded earlier today, marks a diplomatic victory for Ghana and reflects growing global momentum towards addressing the historical atrocities of the slave trade and their enduring legacies that we've seen. Now, this resolution was passed with 123 member states voting in favor. Now, we're going to put something on the screen right now. It explains exactly what took place earlier today. 123 countries voted in favor, 3 voted, raised concerns about it against this, and then 53 abstained. Said that they are not for or against, they just abstained. Foreign Minister Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa spoke with the media after the vote earlier today. Take a look.
With the adoption of this resolution, Resolution A/80/L48, we have not simply passed a text, we have affirmed a truth. We have chosen remembrance over silence, dignity over erasure, and shared humanity over division. We have advanced the cause of justice, and we have done that so emphatically. Those who voted in favor, 123 member states of the United Nations. 52 abstained, and only 3 voted against. This is an emphatic victory for justice. And our ancestors, Africans, and all people of African descent are today honored that our humanity and our dignity have been restored. Let me, on behalf of the African Group, express our profound appreciation to all member states who supported this resolution. We wish to thank those who engage in its consideration in a spirit of dialogue, reflection, and good faith. We acknowledge that views differed during this process, and we note the positions taken by delegations that were not in a position to support the resolution at this time. The adoption of this text is not an arrival at a destination, but rather a major step in our ongoing journey and collective conversation for reparatory justice. We remain committed to continued engagement with all member states in the shared spirit of cooperation. Yesterday, His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana, who initiated this landmark resolution, talked about the importance of language, how it shapes our understanding of the past and our vision for the future. Today, through this resolution, the world has spoken with clarity and truth. We have affirmed that the trafficking of enslaved Africans and their racialized chattel enslavement is the gravest crime against humanity, a crime whose scale, structure, and enduring consequences demand recognition at the highest level of our shared global conscience so that we can move forward in healing and in preventing such a crime from ever happening again. This resolution is not about apportioning blame across generations or nations. It is not about reopening old wounds. It is about ensuring that those wounds are neither forgotten nor denied. It is about creating space for truth, for education, and for a more honest global conversation that allows us to move forward together with greater understanding. History, as we know, is rarely simple. It is layered, it is complex, and at times uncomfortable. This resolution does not deny that complexity. It does not ignore the many dimensions of historical experience. Rather, it recognizes that even within complexity, there are moments in history that stand apart.
Well, as Foreign Affairs Minister Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, they are addressing the media after this landmark development at the United Nations General Assembly. As I indicated, Ghana led this, the President John Dramani Mahama being instrumental in this particular process. But Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa acknowledged one thing, that yes, in the process of all of this landmark development, there were countries that had divergent views. They had dissenting views, for that matter. And that is what is seen captured in here. 123 countries voted in favor of this. And we're going to put it on the screen right now. Some of the countries, obviously Ghana, leading the pack, Cuba, Chad, Libya, Egypt. It's a full list which we have. Those that voted against: Argentina, Israel, and the United States. And those who abstained, they said, you know what, I mean, we are neither for or against. We're not in favor, we are not against, we're just abstaining. Greece, France, Australia, Canada, Germany, and many others. We have it. That's a full list of it. You find on 3news.com. Quite a number of the countries you see there that abstain: Australia, Austria, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Cambodia, Canada, or Finland, all of them saying, you know what, we just want to abstain, okay? But you see just 3 countries outlining. And the United States give reasons why they are against this, even though clearly, if you look at it, when it comes to the destination of slaves from Africa, chunk of them you find them you went to the United States. And this has been a big issue when it comes to how this particular development would impact on this discussion in the United States. Well, this is the position of the U.S. representative at the UN General Assembly. Why they declined, in fact, they were against this resolution. He asks, while we recognize, quote, the wrongs of the past, we are unclear on who the beneficiaries of this reparatory justice will be, and therefore cannot support the resolution at this time. And this is a question that I pose to an international relations expert. He's a lecturer as well. Professor Lord Marco Yavuga is joining us right now on Zoom. We also are in New York live tonight. My colleague and our foreign affairs correspondent, Martin Esiedu Date, is live at the UN General Assembly. He's going to be connecting with us on Zoom shortly. But Prof, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight.
Good evening, Alfred. Good to be here with you tonight.
Perfect. And this development, landmark, historic, but I just want us to start from the point that the United States raises about why they were against this. That even though they recognize the wrongs of the past, they recognize slavery, it's not good, it's not one to be celebrated. They are unclear on who the beneficiaries of this reparatory justice will be. And that's the reason why they didn't support the resolution. I mean, does that hold up for you?
Not at all.
Why
it's
is
not
that?
convincing. I mean, because see, we know the people who benefited from slavery and slave trade, and we also know the people who suffered. So the beneficiaries, there's no doubt that the descendants of the people who were enslaved will be the beneficiaries. And I don't think the resolution was asking for monetary compensation right away. But you first have to admit publicly that what happened was wrong by voting for the resolution. Then every country will take its own steps the way they deem it fit. If there's no follow-up resolution from the UN, then it will be fall on other countries to take their own internal decisions state by state. So for them not voting to support the resolution in itself is a betrayal of what had happened and how they benefited from what had happened.
I see, but then you'd also not want to fault them to the extent that they have their country-specific position as a sovereign nation. You still don't want to see that as 2 separate situations, but to the extent that you had quite a number of the slaves or persons who were taken as slaves from the continent to the United States. They have a stake. You expecting them to have a position on this matter?
Yes, I was expecting, because they were one of the biggest beneficiaries. I mean, the slave trade benefited Americans and American corporate institutions. The slaves were used to build edifices, including the White House. So America benefited. You see, Alfred, the hypocrisy of it is that after the Second World War, America was at the forefront at the UN to condemn the Holocaust against the Jews by the Nazis, and that led to the Declaration of Human Rights by the UN in 1948, the Universal Declaration. And we also what happened to the perpetrators of that Holocaust. So if you recognize that one to be a crime against humanity, then what stops you from publicly admitting and recognizing that what had happened in terms of slavery was equally wrong and was a crime? Then whatever you decide to do after, that will be totally up to you. But the recognition, the acceptance of wrong, as we all expected, should have happened. America should have come clean to recognize, to accept. After all, nobody is blaming, like Okujeto rightly said. We are not apportioning blame. We are just recognizing the historical fact. And America, who has preached human rights over the years, should have been at the forefront in condemning what had happened and accepting responsibility.
I see, and Prof, stay with me. We're going to cross over to the United States, specifically New York right now, where the UN General Assembly is taking place. My colleague and our Foreign Affairs correspondent, Martin Esiedudate, is live from New York. Martin, paint to us, you were in that particular building, that hall where this resolution was adopted, landmark as it is, but tell us exactly how the reaction was. If you can unmute for me, yeah.
Alfred, thank you for the opportunity. I mean, you can imagine it was quite a tense moment, and President John Mahama actually acknowledged the fact that there were levels of uncertainty as to how countries were going to vote, you know, and it clearly was also going to be by secret ballot. So someone can give you the assurance, all right, but when it comes to the voting, that uncertainty could play out. And coincidentally, at the tail end of it, when the news was broken to President Mahama that fortunately we've had 123 countries voting in favor, he also expressed similar sentiments that he was uncertain at some point. And, you know, the Ghanaian mantra of fear delegates came to mind when the voting was about to begin. But you can tell that a lot of work has gone into garnering support for this motion. It started when the president made the declaration at the 80th UN General Assembly that next year in March, Ghana was going to table this motion. So all through a lot of campaigning, more or less, a lot of, you know, telling people what this means, what the essence is, how they intend to achieve it, what the end result will be. So you had all of Ghana's missions and key individuals who've been mandated to spread the word and sell the gospel were all aligned. A number of countries right from the onset were already in agreement. There are two things I want to mention here. President John Dramani Mahama is the Africa Union's champion on reparation. So he already had been given that mandate by the AU. Secondly, he managed to get the entirety of the 55 member countries of the African Union supporting this at Addis Ababa when at the last AU General Assembly. So already the continent had agreed. And we've had very good relations also with the CARICOM community, which is the Caribbean countries. And again, a good number of Africans were there. So right along when the African slaves were being taken away, some stopped along some of these Caribbean countries. So there are a lot of blacks there. But another point that was worthy of note was the fact that Brazil, which is one of the countries with the largest Africa population, in fact, it's the country with the most Africans out of Africa. So immediately this news got to them. The president, His Excellency Lula da Silva, said that it was a good idea because he knew the number of Africans in his country and the history behind how they ended up in Brazil. So the support was growing. And the part that surprised some of us, the journalists at the UN General Assembly today, was when countries like the Asian Pacific, so the Asian countries, almost all of them, including China, were in support of this motion. We also had the Latin American countries in support of the motion. So all their representatives that spoke at the General Assembly or at the gathering didn't mince words to say that they all know about the history, they know about the atrocities, and they believe that this is a motion to first recognize that that kind of evil was perpetrated against Africans. And then secondly, we need to then start looking at reparative justice. We probably can talk about what reparative justice means. Yeah. But for now, it collectively was, it had an overwhelming support. And right when the announcement was made, when on the screen, the numbers popped up, a rapturous applause, people were shouting and hailing it. Countries that Ghana didn't even go to or had nothing to do with Africa in terms of having Africans in their country were all in support. So I think it was quite overwhelming. And the three countries that abstained, you mentioned them, the US, Israel, and Argentina. No surprises there, really. However, the EU, the European Union, also made a statement on the floor today, and they said that they had met the committee that was putting this motion across and made some inputs. But those inputs were not captured in the final document that was presented. So they were not going to be in support. The US, like you indicated, raised a number of concerns. I'm not going to belabor the point. I think that the bigger picture is that Ghana's motion, fully supported by Africa, the Caribbean, Asia, and a number of other other countries, has gotten massive endorsement, and it's a tap on the back of not just the president, but the continent as well.
Absolutely. Some comprehensive detail there that you gave, Martin, taking us through every step of the way. And Prof. Yegua, before I let you go, while we round up on this, I mean, Martin talked about no surprises in the countries that were against this. United States clearly stating their position. But how about Israel as well, Prof?
Well, Israel is an ally of United States. And you notice that even in the Security Council, anything comes up against Israel, America vetoes it. So it's not surprising. They are voting according to America's wishes. And Argentina has a president now who calls himself the Trump of the tropics. So he's also voting with Americans. So there are no surprises. But that goes to tell you
Unfortunately, we had just breaking the connection to Prof. Prof, you're concluding on that point briefly on Argentina very quickly.
Yes, I'm saying that Argentina is voting with the United States because of the president they have at the moment,
right,
who sees himself as the Trump of the tropics.
Right. I see. And maybe just quickly before I let you go, and there's been some reactions to this after this development. The likes of investigative journalist Manasseh Azariah, who posted just a few minutes ago, says some Africans who facilitated the sale of its own citizens into this slave trade should not be benefiting from this reparation. Your thoughts on this?
Well, that's another conversation to be had. I mean, they were African complicity in the whole slave trade, but that should not be the discussion right now. The discussion will be, how can we immortalize so that beneficiaries, people who are descendants, can benefit from some endowment or some funding that will be made available from people from the Caribbean, from African countries, that can take advantage of this momentous occasion. Today is not the time to be apportioning blame. We knew that Africans were involved, but who were the ultimate beneficiaries? I think that's what the issue is. Africans have not denied their role in the slave trade. We are talking about the people who benefited. They should also man up and also own up to their benefit of the slave trade.
Right. Prof, appreciate you for this. And Martin, so what next after today? Martin, unmute for me.
Alfred, that's a question we put to the minister after the press conference, where you could tell that the entire grouping that came out to address the media were very excited. He said that this is the first step and actually probably the biggest hurdle. The next one would be further consultations on what exactly reparation would mean, where to source it from, and how the sharing can be done. Mind you, there was a concern about the fact that, this is a number of African countries trying to get some funding or some finances for their personal gain. The minister dismissed that much earlier when this conversation was building momentum, and said that it is not at all. They are rather looking at how these finances, and not just finances, artifacts that were stolen, can be returned to the continent, because now we have said that what happened is wrong. So to start righting that wrong, first, bring those artifacts that were stolen, but more importantly, some of the reparative justice and funding or financial gains that could be coming from this can be channeled into specific areas in different countries that may be beneficiaries of the reparation.
Martin, appreciate you for this and good job. And we're going to be connecting with you as you update us on what happens in the coming days at the General Assembly as well. Martin Esiedu Date is our Foreign Affairs correspondent live from New York, the UN General Assembly taking place there as we speak. Coming up next on Ghana Tonight, the National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat, NIMOS, is warning miners that officers will, that's illegal miners, that officers will respond with equal force in self-defense if they are attacked. Now, this clear statement, unequivocal, is coming at a time when we've had quite a number of the personnel serving on the National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat, that's the NIMOS team, being attacked by illegal miners. So clear position right now. NIMOS have made it quite clear that if their officers are attacked by illegal miners, they would also return fire in self-defense. Take a look.
There are several weapons in a space. As you can see, 59 weapons, there are more. And they are basically pump action guns in the hands of these galamseyers. And that is a huge risk, a national security risk. Because when they have them in the field, any provocation, they will fire. We had a few brushes where one of my soldiers was shot. Luckily, it was in his thigh and he's recovering. But as I reiterated the last time, NIMOS will not stand by and watch people use weapons against us. We are better trained in the weapons. And therefore, I'll send a warning out there once again that anybody who does, NIMOS will deal with them ruthlessly. It is a problem that we are trying to address, but we have the right to self-defense. And let no galamsey miss that. If you go to the field with weapon and you try to fire it, a lot more will be at you. Almost 3,000 chamfans destroyed. Those ones, I don't count them. Arrest, you have 237. Majority of them are foreigners. Now, you've seen immobilized excavators. In a field, when we go, we don't have low beds. What we can do is to just immobilize and remove vital components so that they cannot use them. And I must tell you that in the Galamsey site, excavator has gone down drastically. We used to meet 10, 20 excavators. But now you hardly meet any of them. The ones you meet there, they are already immobilized. Some of them go through the trial process, but majority of them, where we don't have enough facts on them, through the Chinese embassy, they are deported. And I'm told that once they are deported, formally, they are blacklisted and they don't get to come back. Indeed, there's one of them who attempted bribing at the onset with about 163,000 cedis. He managed to escape. We trailed him, brought him, and he's gone back to China. He's attempting to come. We keep our eyes on him, even when he's in China.
For many Ghanaians.
That's what you hear the Director of Operations at NIMOS, Colonel Dominic Boa, speaking earlier today. Engineer Ken Ashigbe is joining us right now. He is a convener of the Ghana Coalition Against Galamsey, joining us on Zoom. Engineer, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight.
Good evening, and thank you for having me.
Perfect. Now, clear position as espoused by the Director of Operations of NIMOS. They have the right to self-defense, and this is coming at a time when quite a number of their personnel on NIMOS have been attacked by illegal miners. How did this strike you when you heard them state this clear position of intent earlier today?
Well, it's something that we expect, for the military, as citizens, we're entitled to self-defense. How much more people who have been put in harm's way? And we have seen increasing, it's been a while since we had it, but, where some of these community people think they can attack our security personnel, and some of us have insisted that, our security forces are the last line. Once that is breached, then we are all in trouble. So we hope that message goes down clearly, and that everybody gets to realize the fact that you cannot attack these NIMOS personnel. And I think it was good that NIMOS came to for this press conference, and they reiterated this position.
I see, and he just indicated that not too long ago, one of the personnel was shot in the thigh, and
yes,
he is recuperating.
Right. Again, and so this is one of the challenges some of us have been saying, beyond the issues of the environmental degradation, the challenge to our health, the challenge to our economy and all of that. There's one of the major challenges, again, and that came to the fore, was the whole national security challenge that is confronting us. The fact that, these illegal miners are being organized by organized criminals. And one of their ways of protecting their turf is recruiting some of these ex-combatants around us and arming them to the teeth. And, so if we don't deal with this scourge, it would eat us up. And it's instructive to know that right from Operation Vanguard days, there were issues of arms that were seized, but you are increasingly seeing the sophistication of the weaponry that these people are using. And, the fact that even the NIMOS director himself, you saw the situation where he and his 8 of his men were attacked, and the audacity for all that to happen is because, as a people, we are not being as forceful as we ought to be. So I'm hoping that this message would go, loudly to these criminal minds who have recruited people to provide them security and are armed in the field. But again, for me, my pain is that you had Kenneth Boa tell us that since October last year, when they told us that they were going to be deploying in, is it a 22 or 21 permanent bases? We have only one that has been done so far, And again, so if we have the political will, if the political will is not backed by financial support to ensure that we can get these troops that, permanently stationed in some of these hotspots, so that, we will prevent this, then I was, yesterday I was being in the central region to the Ashanti region. And, when you travel that road from Takwa all the way to Abuasi, and you see the Ofin River, this morning, if you see the turbidity of the Ofin River, there's no water in there. It's really not flowing. If you see the Galamsey still in clear sight, So in as much as NIMOS is making some inroads, unfortunately, we are not resolving the problem. And, it's interesting that we saw His Excellency, the President himself, tell us that he knows that some of his people themselves are also involved. And so this point that we make about the fact that the political elite, both the NDC and the MPP, are involved in it. The people, the organized criminals who are behind this are not the poor people. Our chiefs are involved in it. Some of the security forces involved in it. If we don't deal with that scourge, the efforts that NIMOS is making, it would be akin to taking a basket to the riverside and, wanting to bring water back.
I see. But then he also did indicate that 237 persons have been arrested by NIMOS. Majority of them are foreigners. And this is going to be my last point. And after that, he said the Chinese ambassador to Ghana is even surprised at the number of Chinese nationals who are engaged in Galamsey. I mean, does that surprise you?
Well, it doesn't. It's because I tell you that this thing is organized crime. So there are some, Chinese mining firms who are here, Cardinal, Xinjiang, doing the right things and going through the right channels. But the organized criminals find ways in which they bring these people here. The director talked about trafficking, that happens, and these people are trafficked in here. And so if the ambassador himself is surprised, that is where, for me, this whole policy thing of saying that when you arrest them, what you just do is deport them. You don't even know how they came into this country. So who tells you that when you deport them and you take them out there, you will be able to, prevent them from coming in? And the sad thing is that in this country, there are laws that says that when these people are arrested, foreigners are arrested and are involved in this crime, you don't deport them. You try them, they serve their sentences before you deport them. So, unfortunately, what the general himself, what the colonel himself is talking about is actually, falling foul of our laws. And you see, as we talk about these things, we also have to look at the fact that not only the Chinese, the current surge of our brothers from Burkina Faso, They are deciding that they are banning tomatoes from coming in. Well and good, they should ban it. Ghana should be able to become self-sufficient in tomatoes. But they are bringing their people in here to come and do cyanidation. And cyanidation is a worse challenge, you know. The mercury will kill you gradually, but cyanide can wipe communities away. And that's increasingly beginning to happen. And the people who are behind this are the people from Burkina Faso. And it's something...
The Burkinabes have been arrested in this regard, or some investigation has uncovered that?
Yeah, a lot of investigations have uncovered that. A lot of intelligence show that, you know, and, you know, there was a situation where one of the large-scale mines had to go and disband, you know, some of their cyanidation. And that day, they had brought the EPA in, and the EPA came to do some tests. The only thing that saved that community close there was the fact that the pump that was on that borehole had broken down, and they were going to call people to come and repair them. But when the EPA came and took samples, they saw the level of cyanidation. And so the issue about the Burkinabes who are involved in cyanidation, it is a matter of fact, you know, that they are the people behind it, and we need to find ways of dealing with them. Kenebua told us about the issue of the Nigerian, a lot of them who had also been arrested. So, you know, we become so cheap because we are not actually, you know, letting the laws work. So they are leaving their countries and they are coming here as like a gold rush. But the other thing, again, that was mentioned is that beyond the issues of law enforcement, we also need to find ways in which those artisanal and small-scale miners who want to mine properly are given the opportunities to do that. And that is something that, for us at the chamber, we are working on a model that will support the work that the responsible cooperatives are doing. You've had the likes of Newmont do a model. There is Anglo Gold also coming up with a very innovative model that might find some of these small-scale miners being converted into contractors who will mine, you know, a concession for Anglo, and they will be paid for that, and their capacity would even be built so that they can also then become like a contracting firm that can also bid for other contract mines, both locally and internationally. So these are some of the ways in which, as large-scale mines, we also are trying to support government effort, because the challenge of this illegal mining, unfortunately, we really are not dealing with it. That's still there, and there's something that we need to definitely do about them.
Engineer Ken Ashigbe, thank you so much for joining us here in Ghana tonight. Engineer Dr. Ken Ashigbe is the convener of the Ghana Coalition Against Galamsey, and then also CEO of the Ghana Chamber of Mines. You heard him talk about what they are doing as well in this regard in the fight against Galamsey. This is Ghana Tonight. Coming up next, Ghana ramps up tomato production drive amid the shortage fears after Burkina Faso export ban. We'll hear from the Minister of Agri, Eric Opoku. He's been talking about this in Parliament, but there's a clear indication of what the Food and Beverages Association of Ghana want. We're going to go for this quick break. When we're back, the Executive Director of the Food and Beverages Association of Ghana is going to be joining us. We'll hear from the Agri Minister as well. Stay with us. Back, this is Ghana Tonight. The Food and Beverages Association of Ghana has criticized the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, saying it has no justification to exist if it fails to resolve the tomato supply crisis within 3 months. Now, before we get into the details of the association's statement, let's take a backtrack a bit, because the Minister in charge of Food and Agriculture, Eric Opoku, was in Parliament and did give indication of what the ministry is going to do to address this fears of shortage of tomato on the market as a result of this decision by Burkina Faso to ban exports. Take a look.
A gap of approximately 300,000 metric tons to close before we can attain sufficiency in tomato production in Ghana. But we have to understand, we have to have a better appreciation of the challenge, the root cause of it, before we can prefer the appropriate solution to deal with it. While our counterparts in Burkina Faso are doing 18 tons per hectare, we are doing 8 tons. So what is the problem? The problem is the seed, the variety that is used in the production of tomatoes. And so we have decided, and this morning we had a meeting with WACI of Legon and some of the research institutions.
That's Eric Opoku, is the Agric Minister. Well, the Food and Beverage Association of Ghana put out a 10-pointer. They say they want a declaration of a national tomato emergency program. And Reverend John Awuni is chair of the Food and Beverage Association of Ghana. Is joining us on Zoom. Rev, good evening.
Hello, good evening, Alfred.
Now, you had the minister there outlining the immediate measures and the engagement they've had with research institutions to look at the seed variety as well and how to address this possible shortage as quickly as possible. Do you still hold the position that the declaration of a national tomato emergency program must take place?
Yeah, I think that it's one of what the language I'm beginning to hear from him from today is the kind of communication I expect to hear from the Minister of Agric, even though it has been too late. Because as of yesterday, he said it was never possible. I was with him on Adum FM for a very long time, and he said it was never possible to produce tomato sufficient in this country until the year 2028. And my position was that the ministry will lose its relevance if it is not able to produce that tomato within 60 to 90 days, because the tomato is a short duration, short cycle crop. The maximum amount of days that we can use to produce tomato is 90 days. And so for me, as we heard from today, he said it appears that his position has softened, it has changed, and he's talking about the fact that from the press conference he even had today, he's talked about the fact that they have contacted some irrigation centers to scale up and to produce, and they have also contacted some institutions at Legon and then all that. And that's the kind of language I want to hear, because if a ministry that has existed for 69 years, headed by different people and all that, and that ministry has districts in every district in this country, has offices in every district in this country, the country is not going to crop a crop that is new. We have been doing it for long and for years. To extend that some situations, we even have a glut. We have irrigation dams all over the country. And indeed, tomato is not even, yeah.
Yeah, but you know, the state of the irrigation dams we're talking about, right, is one area of concern, that how can we sustain production even in the dry season? Irrigation, yes, there are dams, but is there water in these dams?
Yeah, Alfred, you asked me a question, do I still hold that position? And I'm building up a point on that. So if you allow me, let me just build that point.
Okay.
And then we will have a very meaningful discussion, because there should be a justifiable reason why I am saying that the ministry will lose its relevance if it is unable to produce tomato within 60 to 90 days. You see, we are not talking about tomato can be grown anywhere. If you have a small backyard garden, whether you have water or not, you can grow tomato there. Tomato is not a water-loving crop. It is a short duration crop, 60 to 90 days after transplanting, you should be able to produce. And when you transplant and you keep on putting so much water on it, that tomato will spoil, that tomato crop will spoil. So I am saying that we have the right climate, we have the right, land, we have access to fertilizer, we have access to pesticides, we have access to improved seeds. We have district offices of agriculture in almost all the districts in this country. We have extension offices. We have irrigation dams, even if they are not sufficient, but we have them all over. And what I'm saying is that I am not saying that the Minister of Agriculture should go and award contracts for people to go and produce tomato. I am not saying that the Minister of Agriculture should go and do procurement and go through Parliament and all whatever not. There are so many crops, beans, rice, yam, that is produced massively in this country that the Minister of Agriculture have no hand or control over how they were produced. So if the Minister of Agriculture is supposed to be the galvanizing institution, the force by which farmers can rally around, they are supposed to get farmers to rally around. So from the very day that these women were besieged in Burkina Faso, unfortunately, and killed, the Minister of Agriculture should have immediately kicked into action and declare a national emergency. Remember, the word is emergency tomato production program. And then make a call to everybody across the country, wherever you are. He said that this may be an unfortunate, the ban may be an unfortunate situation, but it provides a good opportunity for at least for Ghana to be self-sufficient in tomato production. Let everyone who has a small backyard, like I do in my house here, if I were to have tomato seedlings and good improved seeds, I can produce tomato and provide to over 10 houses. And I believe many other people that are listening to me tonight do share the same view.
That's why you talk about the second point of the distribution of improved tomato seeds nationwide.
So I talked about the distribution of the tomato seeds nationwide, or tomato seedlings irrigated or produced by the irrigation centers in all the regions of the country. And then you can say that, listen, the government has produced tomato seedlings. The government also equally has tomato seeds. Those who are ready to produce, go to this center, you will find tomato seedlings. This morning, if you had that facility, I would have sent my driver to go and pick some and come and I would have planted it this evening. By April or May, I would have conducted, by May ending or to June, I would have contacted media people around my house to see tomato growing. It is not something sophisticated. I'm not saying that Minister of Agriculture should go and manufacture an airplane. I'm not saying that they should go and award contracts. I am saying that it is possible. It is not something that is just out of the reach of this country. And all that we need to do is to provide the right energy, the right communication, just as the minister has started doing today as I hear him. Talking about he has contacted here, he has talked to irrigation, they have secured 500 hectares of land in Tolo, he has secured 1,100 hectares, or 1,000 hectares, or one of them, hectares of land in Akomanda. He is now beginning to communicate, unlike the poster he was presenting yesterday. I am happy that I have been able to push him into action. So it is not that I am against his office or I am criticizing the office. Anybody who knows me and knows that I've been very consistent with these issues. So, and I think that I'm not just speaking from theory, but I equally could handle the Minister of Agriculture and I could handle it very well. So I know exactly what I'm talking about.
Rev, and I do appreciate your thoughts on this. Thank you so much for running through this 10-point with us and what the way for any review and recommendation should be. Reverend John Awuni is chair of the Food and Beverages Association of Ghana. I want to say thank you to you as well for staying with us here on Ghana Tonight. We're back again tomorrow for another conversation. I'm Alfred Okansi. Have a good night.
Ghana Tonight is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior covering.